Hey guys, Kevin, it's going to be another classic movie review for you guys. Now, this is going to be actually a very special classic movie review because the next three classic movie reviews I will be doing is actually for a franchise that, if you guys know, there's a movie coming out this week that I'm not sure if you guys know about, which pretty much all of you know about. What am I saying? You all know about it. Mad Max Fury Road does come out this week, so anticipation for that, I will be reviewing all of the Mad Max movies, even though I heard you don't really necessarily need to. I really don't care. I'm watching all three of them. I want to go into them knowing at least some of the story, and I'm going to watch all three of them. I will review the first one today, Road Warrior tomorrow, and Beyond Thunderdome probably Thursday, and then see Fury Road Thursday, hopefully, as well, or Thursday or Friday, one of those days. First off, let's review, the 1979 action classic Mad Max. Now, Mad Max, a funny story about this movie. First of all, some things that I think are really interesting about this movie, of course, I will be reviewing it. I really didn't know a lot going into this movie. All I know is that I go on Letterboxd and I see this movie doesn't have the best reviews, and I'm like, wow, that's a Mad Max movie, and I heard it's one of the greatest series of all time, yet it's not really getting very good reviews. And I'm going to tell you guys why. This movie was made in 1979, but it wasn't released in America till about 30 years ago. This was released in 1979 in Australia on a very low budget and eventually was adapted into English accents. I don't know who the idiot was decided to do that, but some guy turned to English accents. Lo and behold, on the Blu-ray, they transferred it back to the original Australian version, and this movie's been around ever since. And of course, it had a recent Scream Factory release, which I really do love the cover art for the Scream Factory release they did for it. So, Scream Factory, they did re-release this for the collector's edition, probably in anticipation for Fury Road, but they did release the first movie. So, I really know what the first movie was going to be, and overall, what do I say about the first Mad Max? It's really not very good. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I really did not think this movie was that good. I want it to be a lot better than it was. It's not necessarily their fault that it's bad, and it's not necessarily bad, it's just not very good. And I'm gonna talk about why it's not very good. First of all, it had a very low budget. There was nothing they could do about that, okay? It was very low budget, to the point where they paid the extras beer on set just so they could be in the movie, and there's a lot of weird stories that go along with this movie, which I find very interesting, but basically, uh, that's one of the very interesting stories, that this movie was very low budget. That's the first thing I need to say, and there are a lot of problems definitely with this movie. The plot of Mad Max, honestly, is not that compelling. Basically, we have this, dystopian future where there's this motorcycle gang that completely rules the road, and basically there are these two guys that are going after them. You have Max, who actually is not the main character. His partner Goose is the main character. Basically, they have to go after them and basically stop them. And that's really all I have to say, because the actual plot doesn't start till later in the movie when Goose actually ends up getting killed and Max then becomes the main character. It's not a spoiler because it's in every single plot you will see. But here's the thing, the actual plot of this movie doesn't start till, like, the last 10 minutes of this movie. Like, if you go on IMDb and Letterboxd and all those sites and look up the plot of this movie, it's gonna say, it's a revenge movie. It's really not a revenge movie at all. I'm gonna talk about the main problems with the movie. There's a lot of problems, definitely, I have with the movie, that, honestly, some of them they could not resolve. A lot of them I thought they definitely could have. First of all, let's get to the acting here. The acting here is actually really good, I have to say, definitely. I think all the actors are really good. However, this movie is actually very cheesy, and a lot of the actors, they're definitely doing a good job of hamming it up, but it definitely is very cheesy. Mel Gibson, first of all. We have to understand this was Mel Gibson's first movie role. He was actually casted because the guy that played Goose, Steve Bisley, is actually best friends with Mel Gibson in real life. I don't know if they're still best friends, but at the time this movie was made, they were best friends, and that's why he was casted in this movie. So, I thought he did a really good job as Max, but here's the thing, Max is not really that compelling of a character. In fact, he's kind of a coward in this movie, honestly. He's not really that good of a character because of the fact that he doesn't have much of one, honestly. When Goose is killed, Max doesn't go out for revenge till the last, like, 10 minutes of this movie. He decides to hide with his wife and kids for the second half of this movie, and it's actually very boring. I think Mel Gibson did a good job with what he had. He just didn't really have a lot to do. He doesn't talk a lot. He's very quiet. He's not really that much interesting. And I didn't really think of him as a hero. I never really thought of him as this guy's a hero. I thought of him as just this guy's getting revenge for no reason whatsoever. And now, oh, he's getting revenge, which anyone would do. So I just thought his character was kind of dumb. I mean, really, his character was dumb. I didn't really like his character. And the thing I liked is that I did hear that Road Warrior, they definitely improved upon that, but right here, I didn't think his character was that interesting. Also, I didn't care at all about his wife or kids or anything like that. I thought Joanne Samuel, she was fine what she did, but I did not give two shits about her character. I didn't care about her, I thought she was dumb, and I really didn't care about her. Hugh Keys Byrne. This is really interesting with his character. He plays the new girl in this movie, the Toe Cutter, who I have to say is probably one of the worst villains I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he's called the Toe Cutter. He never cuts anyone's toes, and there's no point in this movie where he is ever menacing. I mean, let's talk about some of the things that he does. What does he do in this movie that's so intimidating? He shoots mannequins. Okay, that's weird. I mean, you could literally go for, like, target practicing, and you could just shoot mannequins. It's like, boom, mannequin, gone. Like, it's not that intimidating. Licks a kid's ice cream, which is something that a birthday clown would do and someone would laugh at. Tries to steal ice cream, and is also terrified of every single woman he sees. Someone pulls a shot at him and they're a woman, he just gets so terrified, and it honestly is really funny to watch, and Hugh Kingsburn did a great job of sticking to that role, but it's such a terrible villain, and I'm laughing at everything he says. There's nothing intimidating about his character. His character's weird, I don't know why I decided to go with this character choice, but he's hamming it up the whole movie. He does a great job. The most interesting thing about Hugh Keys-Byrne is that he's actually playing Immortan Joe in Mad Max Fury Road, who looks extremely intimidating, and that really shows me that he does have the props to do that. And it's not really his fault. I'm going to talk about why none of this is the actor's fault. Steve Bisley as Goose, he was really good. Everyone was really good in the movie. My main problem here is with the directing by George Miller. Now, not necessarily the world. The world is very well established. You can tell that this is a post-apocalyptic world. You can tell that this is George Miller's version. You can definitely tell that. That's not my problem with this movie. My biggest problem is the tone of this movie. What is the tone of this movie? Like, I don't understand this. The tone of this movie. This is a dystopian future, and it's a very fun movie, and it doesn't feel like it should be. I mean, this is a motorcycle gang, and they're not really doing anything that bad, so why is it so bad? What's going on? Like, there's not a lot of violence going on. So why is the tone so fun? Like, I don't understand. Like, why do you have to make the tone so fun? I think George Miller did a great job of creating this world. And I'm going to read something that I actually really do want to talk about. Because Rotten Tomatoes, I've talked about it before. I do agree with some things that Rotten Tomatoes says. I do. But that doesn't mean I agree with everything they say. This case, I don't really agree with what they say about Mad Max. Because I always read their consensus. And their consensus for this film is very weird. Because they basically say, staging the improbable car-stunting crash to perfection, director George Miller succeeds completely in bringing the violent post-apocalyptic world of Mad Max to visual life. Well, yeah, he does do a good job of creating the world. That doesn't mean he does a good job with this movie, because he really doesn't. This movie doesn't know what it wants to be. I mean, for the first hour, it's this fun movie that's just trying down a motorcycle gang, but then some really crazy stuff happens, and you're like, how did that just happen? Why is the movie getting so dark? And the movie gets so dark in the final of this movie that I just didn't care anymore. I was like, why is this movie all of a sudden getting so dark? Like, what happened to the fun stuff we saw in the beginning of this movie? Why is it so dark all of a sudden? I don't know. I don't know why the movie gets so dark. I don't know why the movie's so cheesy either. I feel like that was definitely the wrong thing to go with this movie. Again, this movie is incredibly low budget. The sets are not very good because of that. They look like sets they could make in 20 minutes. They don't look that impressive, but again, that's because of the fact this movie was very low budget, and it's very cheesy. while the movie's fun, I just felt like it shouldn't have been fun. I felt like, there are these very violent things happening. Why isn't it, a lot darker? The tone of Fury Road, that seems to be the tone of what these movies should be, definitely. I'm not going to compare the two. I'm just saying from what I've seen of Fury Road and then what I've seen in this movie, two very different kind of movies. And I can definitely tell they had a very different vision at the beginning of the story. The other big problem with this movie is that there are things I'm laughing at that I don't feel I should be laughing at. I shouldn't be laughing at our villain here. This is a threatening motorcycle gang. Are you kidding me? Licking someone's ice cream and shooting mannequins. Yeah, that's so menacing. Seriously, that's so menacing. And he has this weird thing where he, just randomly touches people's faces and tries to intimidate them. That's not scary. That makes me want to laugh at him. Seriously, that's all I did. The whole movie, anything he said, I just laughed at. I found him stupid. I found him boring, honestly. The worst part of this movie, by far, is the screenplay, and I'm going to talk about why. There's a moment in this movie, as I said, where his partner gets shot, and you think that Max is going to go on this journey. And also, why the hell is this movie called Mad Max? Like, why? Why is it called Mad Max? Because Max is not mad till the end of this movie. And I'm not spoiling it because the plot of this movie says he goes out for revenge. I just want you guys to know, he does not go on revenge until the last 10 minutes of this movie when his wife and kids are killed, which is not a spoiler either because it's in the plot. Like, none of this is a spoiler, it's in the plot of the movie. So, the worst part, as I said, is the screenplay. This movie is horribly paced. It's so slow paced to the point where it's like, why is this dragging out so long? Why does it take forever for the actual plot of the movie to get going? And then when it seems like something good's about to happen, the movie just ends, and it's like, why is this ending? And also, any scene that's not an action scene is dreadfully boring, and there are things that also don't make sense. Like, I can understand this is a dystopian future, but how is there a lawyer in this future? Like, how is there a lawyer available? Like, why would that be in a dystopian future? There are things that I just don't know why George Miller did, and I'm just as like, why'd you do that? Like, there are things I can go with. I can go with the fact that we have a dumb villain. Okay, I can go with that. I can go with the fact this movie is very low budget. Fine. But having a lawyer, like, what the fuck do you think I'm gonna think about that? The worst part of this movie by far is the second half of this movie when Max decides to leave the entire police world and basically go with his wife and kids and go on vacation with them. And when that happens, the movie becomes extremely boring. The screenplay is boring, it's dull. It is some of the most boring, dull dialogue I have seen in a while. Honestly, it's so dull. It's so boring. There's nothing interesting being said. It's just like them having fun. It's not fun to watch. It's stupid, and I didn't care at all about it. In fact, I wanted to fast forward through it. I was like, oh my god, I don't care. Just go to the good stuff, because that is not what this movie should be. I'm not saying we shouldn't give time for the movie to breathe. I'm going to give a good example. Age of Ultron, Avengers Age of Ultron just came out this week. It just came out, a couple weeks ago. That movie did a great job of what action movies should do. Have action, but also have a good story. Slow down when you need to slow down. There's a scene where they hide out, and they need to. They need to hide out. They need to start planning out what they're going to do with Ultron. Don't do what this movie does, where there's this crazy first half where there's tons of action going on, and then just stop all the action and have this one really weird second half of the movie where I'm just wondering what the hell I'm watching. Like, when I look at this movie, let me show you the other cover to this movie. Like, let me show this to you. That, of course, was the reverse cover. This is the actual cover to this movie. Does this look like a movie that's going to not be, action? I mean, there's tons of action in this movie. The cinematography is fantastic in this movie. The action scenes look real because they were real. Everything that happened in this movie was real. In fact, because of how low budget the movie was, there were no safety precautions. Literally nothing. No safety precautions. So, they had apparently there's another rumor that they had the hospital on standby, and George Miller would give them beer just so the hospital would come and save the cast, which is pretty crazy, but honestly, I could believe it because of how low budget this thing really was, and because of how dangerous the stuff that happens in this movie is, I would be surprised if really, the stuff that happens in this movie, it really did hurt, the stunt doubles. I could definitely see it being a possibility. But the ending of this movie is just so choppy and so all over the place, seriously. It's all over the place. It makes no sense. Things just come out of nowhere that make no sense whatsoever. And I didn't really know how to feel about this movie in the first, 40 minutes, honestly. It took me, I'd say the first 40 minutes to actually get into this movie and actually be like, okay, now I know where we're going to. This was not at all what I wanted the series to be. It's not what the series should be. It was not a good way to start the series, and in many ways, guys, I do recommend you guys see this movie. I do, because honestly, I want you guys to see how much this series has improved, because I heard that this movie fixes all of that. This movie fixes everything that's wrong with this movie. Which I hope it does, because I heard it's one of the greatest action movies of all time, and I know it's going to be great. Definitely, the thing with this movie that's great is that you know it's going to be better. That's the thing that I love, is that they leave you with the thought that this one's going to be better, it's going to improve all the problems that the last movie had, and that's really good, because obviously, I want it to be better. I don't want this to be what the Mad Max movies are. This is not all what it should be. This is not how you start the series. Again, it was very low budget, and to most people, it didn't even exist till, I'd say, like, a few years ago when that Blu-ray set came out, which is now also kind of unavailable, and now the only copy you can get of Mad Max is this. This is the only copy you can get of it. I kind of regret getting this Blu-ray, I do have to say, honestly. I probably will never watch this. I might watch this movie again at some point, but I do recommend you guys check it out. I want you guys to see how the movie was. Also, if you, just for the cheesiness of the movie alone, and just see how dumb the movie is, like the toe cutter, just see how hilarious it is to see him, like, lick his, Max's wife's ice cream, and then her just, like, dump it on him, and him get scared of women, and him shooting mannequins and making it seem like it's intimidating. That's hilarious. That's stuff to watch. It'll make you laugh. It's a fun watch. Honestly, it's kind of a So Bad It's Good movie. Honestly, I wasn't expecting it to be that, but that's what this first movie is. Because of how low budget it was, it's a So Bad It's Good movie. I think George Miller had some good ideas. I think he did some things right, but because of how low budget the movie is, the movie could not have been good, and that's really the problem with this movie. So that's really it for my review of the first Mad Max. Let me know what you guys think of this movie you have seen. I know there are some people that are fans of this movie, but honestly, I really was only into the movie the last 10 minutes. I have to say, the last 10 minutes are very, very well done, but it's just like, it's the last 10 minutes. Like, why'd you choose the last 10 minutes? Why couldn't the whole movie been this? Like, this is what the last 10 minutes are. This does not happen till the last 10 minutes. This movie is slow-paced to death, and it shouldn't be, and it really pissed me off with how slow it was. But it really did set my expectations high for this movie. I hope that The Road Warrior is 10 times better than Mad Max. I hope it's a lot better. I hope it improves all the problems that this movie had. Let me know what you guys think of this movie you have seen. That's in my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys in the next video, which will be for the season of Jane the Virgin. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.